Hello, I'm Janae Steggall, president of txvotes. txvotes is a nonpartisan civic engagement organization here on campus, and we are devoted to registering Longhorn students and faculty, as well as providing nonpartisan educational resources. And today I am going to teach you how to be a Longhorn voter this summer. So if you'll just give me one moment to get into the presentation. Okay, here we are. And just for reference as well, any text in this slideshow that is underlined is hyperlinked to the resources that they are referring to. All of these links will also be present in the speaker notes of each slide, as well as in the description of our YouTube video.
Okay, so to start off, we are going to talk about some data. So we all know UT is pretty exceptional, but UT is also exceptional in our voter turnout rates. UT has consistently turned out to vote at higher percentages than the entire state as a whole, as well as repeatedly beat OU in turnout. As you can see here, we'd like to make a habit of improvement. Today, I'll be going over how we can make sure we remain exceptional and once again beat OU in 2020. For Texans, there is an election in July. July 14th will be election day for the primary runoff election. A primary is an election in which voters choose their candidate to appear on the ballot for an upcoming general or local election. It's essentially narrowing down the candidates, if you will. Runoffs occur when an election ends with no candidate having a true majority, causing another election to occur. This election on July 14th was delayed from May to this date due to COVID-19. So this is a unique situation in which it's a primary runoff because no candidate had a true majority during the primary. When voting in primaries, there's a couple of things you should know. If you voted in the primary this spring, you must vote in the same party for this runoff as you did in that election. If you voted for party X, you must once again vote for party X. You can choose any candidate you'd like, but you have to vote for the same party. However, if you did not vote in the primary this spring, you are free to vote for whichever party you would like. You can vote for X, Y, Z, whatever party you would like. Here are some important dates to keep in mind for the July election. The last day to register to vote is June 15th, which is quickly approaching. We'll go into more detail over registering to vote in the next slide, but please do not delay registering to vote. It is vital that you guys get this done as soon as possible so that you are eligible to vote in this election. The first day of early voting for this election is June 29th and will be available until July 10th. If you're going to vote in person, early voting is a great opportunity to avoid long lines, and it lasts nearly 2 weeks, so it's super easy to find a time that you can fit this in. If you're going to vote by mail instead, the last day for your county to receive your application to vote by mail is July 2nd. Notably, this is the date that your county will have to receive your application to vote by mail, not the date that you send it, nor the date that it's postmarked for. So your county has to actually have your application to vote by mail physically in their office by this day. The last day for your county to receive your actual ballot by mail is Election Day, or July 14th. Okay, so first things first, a couple of things you're going to need in order to register to vote. You will need a blue or black pen to fill out the application once you physically have it with you. So after you request that the application be mailed to you, once you get it in the mail, you're going to need to whip out that blue or black pen to fill it out. And then another thing is you're going to need either the last 4 of your social security number or your Texas driver's license number. If you don't have either of these, there's a checkbox that you can check off on the application in your blue or black pen, and then you will need to fill out a reasonable impediment form. If you have any questions about that, you can always contact us, but I'm going to move on to the next part of this slide. Let's talk about the actual process of registering and voting in this election. The first step, registering to vote, is necessary to be eligible to vote in an election. Provided is a link with the Texas Secretary of State's website to check if you're registered to vote, and if so, where. Choose a login option and provide your information. You'll find your registration status, and if your county requires you to vote at a particular polling station, which polling station you need to vote at on election day. If you are either not registered to vote in a county you do not wish to vote in, have moved within the county you're registered in, or have changed your first or last name, you must register or re-register in order to vote. The second link provided on this slide is a form that requires you to fill it out electronically, print it, affix postage, and mail it to the voter registrar for the county you wish to be registered to vote in. If you don't have access to a printer or do not have stamps, the last link of this slide, which is the fill out this form part, is a link to request a postage paid voter registration application be mailed to you. All you have to do with this option is fill it out and mail it back to your county. There are a few things to keep in mind and be careful of while filling out your registration application. You must be a citizen of the US to register to vote. If you are 17 years and 10 months old, you can register to vote right now, so long as you will be 18 by July 14th. You can also vote in this election. Again, just to go over that one more time, if you are 17 years old and 10 months right now, you can register to vote, and if you will be 18 by election day, you can vote in this election. On the application itself, question number 1 will ask you if you want to choose new or change. The circumstances in which you would choose the new option is if you've 1, never registered to vote before, or 2, want to register to vote in a county you're not currently registered in. So if you are living in Tarrant County right now, but you are registered in Travis County in Austin, and say that there's an election, there's a primary runoff election happening in your at-home county, then you may want to re-register if you would prefer to vote in Tarrant over Travis County. If it's vice versa, basically you want to re-register to vote if you are currently registered in a county that you do not wish to vote in. In order to check where you are currently registered to vote, you can use the link from the Secretary of State's website in the previous slide. The circumstances under which you would choose the change option is if you have moved within the county you are registering to vote in. So for instance, if I wanted to vote in Travis County, i.e. Austin, but I moved from apartment X to apartment Y, I have to re-register to vote in order to be eligible to vote. An important note, if you have moved residences, so rooms within the same apartment complex or even within the same hallway, you still have to re-register to vote. When all of this is said and done and you mail it back in, you'll receive a registration receipt from your county within 30 days of them receiving your application. Now, it's not necessary for you to bring this to the polls with you. It may be helpful and it may speed up the process a little bit in the election workers checking your paperwork in your ID, but it is not necessary. So say for instance, you register to vote on June 14th, a day before the deadline, which is June 15th, but you don't receive your paperwork in time for the July 14th deadline, that's okay. You're still registered to vote and you do not have to bring this form in with you to vote. Also, if you receive it but you lose it, that is totally okay. You can still vote. You don't have to have this voter registration receipt with you. Before we leave this slide, I just want to go over a couple of mistakes that are easy to make on this form. That way we can avoid them and make sure that you guys are good to go and are properly registered to vote and accepted by the county. So first thing, when it asks you for your county, make sure you don't put USA. It's funny and we laugh, but it does happen. Make sure that you put county and not USA. So if I wanted to vote in Austin, I would say Travis County. I would not put America or USA. If you're trying to register to vote in Travis County, you need to make sure that you put your Travis County address as the address you want to be registered to vote in. So for instance, I would not put my DFW address if I'm trying to register to vote in Travis County. they're not going to accept that. They're not going to let you register to vote. So you have to make sure that you put your Travis County address. Another thing, if it asks you for today's date, make sure you put today's date and not your birthday or vice versa. Have that happen a lot. Okay, so once you have filled out your voter registration application and you're good to go, the next step is to vote, which is the exciting part. That's the fun part. So you can vote during early voting, which again is June 29th to July 10th, or you can vote on election day, which is July 14th. Please check your county and make sure that you know the hours of the polling station that you're going to. And again, some counties are, they require voters to go to a specific polling station based on where they live in the county, or others like Travis County, i.e. Austin, they let you go to any polling station that is open. So after you register to vote, the only thing left to do is to bring an acceptable form of voter ID to your polling station. What is acceptable voter ID? So for Texan residents, your Texas driver's license is going to be the most common thing that you're going to bring. And if you are an out-of-state student, your passport is going to be the most common thing that you can bring. Now, there are other forms of acceptable voter ID, but those are the two most common ones. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to talk about is voting by mail or absentee ballot voting. There are some requirements to be eligible to do this in Texas. Not all states have eligibility requirements, but Texas does. So we're going to quickly go over what those are. So to vote by mail in Texas, you must be one of these at least. You can be several of them, but you must at least be one. You can be over the age of 65. You can be disabled. You can be out of the county on election day and during the period for early voting. And you can be confined in jail, but otherwise eligible. Now, most UT students are going to fall into this third option of being out of the county on election day and during the period of early voting. So for instance, if you are back home and back home is not Travis County, you are eligible to vote by mail. When you apply for the ballot to vote by mail, you have to specify what your reason is for voting by mail. You will list this reason if it is applicable to you. So on this slide is a link to request an application to vote by mail. The process for trying to vote by mail is to first fill out an application to vote by mail, and then if you are approved by your county, to then fill out an actual ballot to vote by mail. So for the application part, the first link, the only link on this slide, sorry, is a link to request an application to vote by mail. Once you receive this application in your mailbox, you're going to fill it out. So this link is basically your name, your address. That way they can mail you, the state can mail you your application to vote by mail. So once you get this, take it out of the mailbox, fill it out. You are then going to fold the application in half, moisten the top seal, add postage, and mail it back to your county. An important side note, the title of the person that you are going to be mailing it back differs between counties. So some counties will call it an election clerk, some counties will call it something different. It really depends on what county you're living in. If you would like a little bit more information on what this specific title is for your specific county, please be sure to request a Texas Votes Care package, which we'll go over later on in this presentation, because we will provide a personalized guide on everything you need to know about your specific instance. So after mailing in your application, you will then receive the ballot. This is the exciting part. This is the voting part. You're going to fill it out and choose your desired candidates on the ballot. You're then going to follow the instructions listed on either the ballot or the instructions that come with it, add postage, and mail it back to your county. Very, very, very important note. If you want to promote civic engagement on your social media, which big props, love to see it, you have to be very, very careful. You can post a photo of yourself and the envelope of your ballot, but you cannot post a photo of yourself and your actual ballot. This will invalidate your ballot and your vote will not count. So in order to avoid this, you can fill out your ballot and then you can put it inside of the envelope. You can seal it and then you can take as many selfies as you want, because the envelope that it comes with is a security envelope to make sure that who you're voting for, what you're voting for is not visible from the outside. So please, please, please be careful. Okay, and if you would like a personalized guide for registering and voting in this election, please be sure to request a Texas Votes care package. The link on this slide is to a Google form, just providing us a little bit more information about your specific situation, and which we can then provide back to you in a day or two or as soon as possible. Information specifically about your voting situation and what you need to do to either vote in person or vote by mail. We are putting these together for each and every person who requests them to make this process as simple and as accessible for Longhorns as possible. They're free and very helpful, and we're doing it out of love. Please, please, please fill out the Google form. Okay, and that is it. If you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to email, text, or direct message us. All of our contact information and social media handles are listed. Thank you so much for your time. I really hope you guys join me in being a Longhorn voter. It is super worthwhile. Your vote matters, your voice matters. Hook 'em horns. Thank you.